I've been watching a home being constructed that's just a few miles up the road from me. It's taken about a year and a half, but from the looks of things, it's about to be finished. I mean, they're down to the landscaping and the driveway being finished. It's going to be a beautiful home. And I know this sounds weird, but I've actually enjoyed watching the progress, even though I don't know the folks who are building it. It was just a pleasure watching something evolve from a vacant piece of land to a gorgeous home site. It appears to be a high-end home that likely cost a good deal of money. And perhaps some people might drive by and wonder why somebody would need such a large home with acres of land leading to it. My reaction has been quite the opposite. Without even knowing the people who are going to live there, I found great pleasure in its construction. Why, you might ask? Because I thought about the many benefits to my entire community because someone bought a piece of property and built a nice home on it. Because to build that house, scores of people had good-paying jobs. There were the people who did the site work, clearing trees, leveling and bulldozing the land, and then pouring the concrete to lay the foundation. There were framers, roofers, electricians, plumbers, painters, HVAC workers, finish carpenters, flooring people, appliance installers, cabinet makers, brick masons, fence builders, and crews to install security systems, entertainment systems, and kitchen counters. Probably over 100 people worked on that property in some form or another. And because they had expert skills, they were paid well and should be. Their wages fed their families. They were given as tithes to their churches in our community. And they bought things in local stores. There was also a substantial benefit to those who sold the lumber, the wiring, the pipes, the roof materials, the flooring, the appliances, and more. And those things being purchased resulted in a considerable sales tax bump for the county. That takes care of everything from sheriff's deputies to fire trucks. Now that the home is complete, a much higher property tax is going to be collected from that property than when it was undeveloped. And even though the construction is finished, there's going to be ongoing maintenance, upkeep, and repairs, and that'll result in ongoing jobs. It's called capitalism. And the economic system of capitalism is under attack in this country as never before from a bunch of people who don't have a clue how to help people out of poverty and into prosperity. So when I hear self-appointed geniuses like Senator Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and when they rail against what they deem as greed in our capitalistic system, I wonder if they are ever capable of just stopping and smiling at the sight of a new home being constructed and being able to thank God that some people got a paycheck today for working really hard at something they're good at. Can't we celebrate that? Why not? Now, leftists, they love government bureaucrat jobs. Yeah, they pass bills to fund even more of them, whether to get 87,000 more IRS agents or hire more environmental regulators to make sure that building that house didn't disturb the home of a spider or a mouse or a snake. Frankly, I'm not so concerned with someone moving a snake out of my way. I say move them all, okay? Fine, get rid of them. I'm quite happy that a family is going to be living there who's going to enjoy their new home, while many other families will have clothes on their backs and food on their tables because they had the jobs that built that house. Folks, I don't have to own a boat to be glad somebody else does, because somebody had to build it, transport it, sell it, insure it, and now service it. It doesn't hurt me if someone else has something I don't have, or if they have something I can't afford. It's good for all of us. I could whine about how much money somebody has spent, or I could think out loud as what they should have done with their own money. But I choose to rejoice in that everyone in my community and nation ultimately benefits by the creation, production, and transferring of something of value that gets placed in the economy. And by the way, there is no limit to how much benefit there is to economic activity in a capitalistic system. And no one is hurt by the prosperity of another person. Let me be blunt. If you're poor and need a job, you need to pray someone is richer than you are And they're going to need to hire you to do some work so you can earn money and spend it on the things that you want. Because earning the money to obtain what matters to you is way better than whining over what someone else has and hoping the government will take it away from them and give you a part of it. So as I drive by the new house on the road to my house, I won't curse the family who built it. No, I'm going to be glad that in dozens of homes around Little Rock, other people are celebrating a house they'll never spend a night in, but a house which enables them to spend a more prosperous night in their own homes. Capitalism. We are all better off with it. Now, those of you who watch this program know that I believe that election integrity is one of the most critical issues facing our country today. My next guest believes the same. He's a former Georgia congressman, currently at the Family Research Council, and is the author of a new book called Sacred Trust: Election Integrity and the Will of the People. Please welcome Jody Hice. Great to have you here.
Yes.
You went to Congress, were there for several years. Looking at what's going on this week, do you miss it at all?
Oh, mercy. You know, there's parts of it, yes, you miss the colleagues, you miss the battles, but boy, it's upside down right now. And there's a lot of it I don't miss, for sure.
Many of us watch it, and I consider myself maybe a little better informed than some people, but maybe not as much as others. But just looking at it from the outside, it sometimes is frustrating that the infighting, especially within the Republican Party, they take all their dirty laundry, and it's almost like they don't just put it out for the world to see. They make sure that it's front and center so that nobody misses it. It's not just that you can see it, you can't not see it. What the heck do they think that accomplishes? I'm at a loss to understand that.
Yeah, it's a strange phenomenon, and you add to it, the media throws gas on it, try to make it even bigger than it is. There are always meetings that are private where information is leaked, and then that just starts adding fuel to the fire as well. But yeah, when you only have a majority of one or two people, I mean, we're already in a position we have to have precision in working through this. But with the toxicity that exists right now, it's extremely difficult.
Well, and I understand there are strong differences of opinion. I get that. And I understand that there are things that we as Republicans, we really want and we want to believe in, but we have to get to the votes or those things don't happen. And even if we get to them in the House and pass them, they're going to die in the Senate unless it has an overwhelming support. And if it doesn't have all of that, President Biden's never going to sign it into law. So at best, we can play some defense, keep some bad things from happening at the House level. But it seems like some people believe that we ought to just be changing America by having one half of 1/3 of the government. And I'm scratching my head wondering, how do they miss the simple math that just won't quite work?
Well, I think at the bottom line, Mike, what these people are facing is the reality that we are watching the demise of our country right under our nose. From the southern border to the out-of-control spending to what's happening on the global scene, all of this. And if we don't make changes quickly, it's going to slip right out of our fingers.
And that I do understand, especially when it comes to the border and the fact that we've seen 10 million people pour across. And that gets to the heart of your book, Sacred Trust, Election Integrity. Some have surmised that the reason that the Biden administration and Democrats really don't mind seeing that many people come across the border, which we have no idea who they are, because it does affect how the allocations for congressional districts are done. And if the Democrats are ever able to just allow people to vote, no matter what their citizenship, then the country is forever changed and we'll never get it back.
That's right. We are at the very base, at the foundation. We are a governed based upon the consent of the governed, not the consent of the governing. And at the epicenter of that reality is the integrity of the ballot box. It's the voice of the people. And I tell people all the time, what elections are all about really is not about who wins or who loses. What elections are all about is whether or not the will of the people was heard and accurately represented. That is because if I may be disappointed my candidate loses, but if it's a fair election, we can come back. But as you're saying, if there is some compromise in the election integrity, then we have serious problems. It's extremely difficult to retain.
Jody, what's the difference between a stolen election and an election that has irregularities that could, in fact, affect the outcome?
Well, these days, there's a world of difference. Unfortunately, these days, even for those who have legitimate questions, we are put into a camp as election deniers, as threats to democracy, all these type of things. You believe in stolen election. I mean, right now, it's all wrapped up together to where those of us who legitimately have concerns with abnormalities and inconsistencies, or just you smell something that doesn't look right, then we are lumped into this category of dangerous people for our society. But that goes back to what elections are all about, is integrity. And to have that, you must have transparency. But obviously, a stolen election is where it is just that. The election was stolen. But you know, where there are legitimate problems, legitimate concerns, be it with inaccurate voter registration files or mail-in ballots or ballot harvesting or lack of voter photo identification, whatever it may be, then those are issues of legitimate concern that could potentially change the outcome of an election, and they need to be addressed.
I want us to continue on this when we come back from the break, because there's several specific things I want us to get into. So don't go away. More of my conversation with Congressman Hice is on the way. Keith Bilbrey, he's also going to be voting on what we have coming up in the show, and he'll tell us about it.
Well, still to come, Courtney Kramer discusses her bid for the Fulton County DA position. And later, Georgette Jones and Lisa Brokop pay tribute to the female superstars of country music. All that and more tonight on Huckabee. MikeHuckabee.com and sign up for his free newsletter and follow @GovMikeHuckabee on X.
And welcome back. We're coming back to the music of Trey Corley and the Music City Connection, playing Fleetwood Mac's Little Lies. I'm thinking as we're listening to that, Jody, that's exactly what we're talking about, except there's some big lies that are going on to the American people these days. We were talking just before the break about the fact that there's everything from mail-in ballots that we really don't know where these come from, the resistance, which I do not understand, the resistance to photo ID, to prove who you are when you go vote. What's up with that? Because why would somebody say, oh, we can't ask people to show who they are? I mean, I don't get that.
Yeah, I don't get that either. You know, you have to, when you're connecting the dots, you have to conclude there's some sort of nefarious reason for not having obvious things that protect election. And that goes back, I went to Congress, Governor, and this was not on my radar. Election integrity, not one of the things that I went there for, but I ended up being a senior member on the Oversight Committee.
Yeah.
And while there, we had our first case of COVID in Washington State. The very next week, after the first case, the very next week in Oversight, Democrats started holding hearings about we needing to federalize elections and change our election laws, that people are going to be fearful of going to the ballot box or they may be locked. And it was one hearing after another, while the rest of us were wondering, what is this even going to mean to me or my family?
Yeah.
What is coming? It was as though they were strategically moving forward, focused on the upcoming election. And that started raising a red flag with me. And then, unfortunately, many of the things that they were trying to federalize were unilaterally accepted in various states, be it from governors or secretaries of state or whether apart from legislatures, by and large.
Yeah.
And here we have it. Photo ID gone, all these things tossed out the window.
And it was very frustrating to see that some states violated their own constitution and their own laws, and they got away with it. The bigger problem was not that they said, okay, we're going to have to suspend our constitution about when the ballots have to be counted or when they have to be in. And Pennsylvania, for example, allowed them several days past the date to still come in. That was bad enough. But that no one challenged it or allowed it to be challenged, and the courts would say, either you don't have standing or there's no evidence of election fraud. The reason there was no evidence is because nobody would let them look at it.
You couldn't look. How do you find evidence if you're not able to look? There must be transparency in all of this. If not, people lose confidence. And when people lose confidence that their elections matter, that their vote is counted accurately, then they just stay at home. And that turns our entire country upside down from the perspective of this being run and led by and for the people.
So when you did the book, Sacred Trust, election integrity is the theme of it. Are there some things we can do as a country, and is that the prescription that you have in the book, so that here's how to fix this?
Yeah, I mean, there are the obvious. I mean, now keep in mind that the time, place, and manner, according to the Constitution, time, place, and manner of elections are left to the states. It's not a federal issue.
Yeah.
So we have 50 states with 50 different rules and regulations of how they process their elections. So it's difficult to say every state, but universally, there are some things that should be accepted, such as voter identification, such as cleaning up our voter registration files. I saw an article, I believe last week, that said that the average state is between 8 and 18% inaccurate on their files. So, we're round that off. If we're 10 to 20% off before we even start, then we're behind the 8 ball. But then you add to that your mail-in ballots and your ballot harvesting, having eyes on the ground, boots on the ground, poll workers in place. All these type of things are universally type of issues and matters that should be in place in every state. And yes, I address a lot of those in the book.
This is the book. It's called Sacred Trust, Election Integrity and the Will of the People. And if you care at all about the state of affairs of our election process, and you must care, this is a must read. If you visit Huckabee.tv, we'll give you links where you can purchase the book and keep up with all that Congressman Jody Hice has going on at the Family Research Council. Keith Bilbrey, we've had an election, and we have elected you to tell us what's coming up next. It's all yours.
Well, thank you very much. When we come back, Courtney Kramer discusses the Fulton County DA's position and what should change if elected. Plus, Stacey Lynn Harris cooks up some bacon-wrapped goodness. That's ahead on Huckabee.
Welcome back, everyone. Now, you've probably seen the shame that District Attorney Fani Willis has brought to the state of Georgia. From her corrupt dealings, her illicit affair with a special prosecutor that she appointed, to her rabid pursuit of former President Trump for bogus election interference claims, Fani Willis has shown that she's beneath the dignity of her office. And I say that with conviction. Not of criminal conviction, but with conviction nonetheless. My next guest is attempting to do something about it, something tangible. She's running for Fulton County District Attorney in November. Would you please welcome Attorney Courtney Kramer? Good to have you, Courtney. I think these people are probably maybe as excited as I am that someone is finally challenging Fani Willis and saying, this is not the way that government is supposed to work. What motivated you, pushed you over the edge, led you to the point where you said, here am I, Lord, send me?
Well, it's actually ironic you say that. It was actually on a Sunday that I decided that. So I think that kind of led me into this decision. But for 30 years, I've, lived in Fulton County. I'm born and raised there. And for 30 years, we've never had a Republican qualify to run for DA in Fulton County. That's not how our elections are supposed to work.
Yeah.
I've seen what she's done the last 3 years. I've seen her when she challenged Paul Howard doing everything that she said she wasn't going to do that she's doing now. She's, wasting taxpayer dollars, having, relationships with her employees. And I don't think, as a young lawyer, to me, that tugged at my heartstrings. You're supposed to look at your DA and admire them and have trust and faith that they are going to prosecute criminals. And that's not happening. So I decided to run for DA against her because I think that in Fulton County, we don't need to be told who our next DA is going to be. The voters in Fulton County really need to have a choice and a voice in that election, especially come May and November.
I mean, so many of the legal scholars, and I'm talking not just Republicans, but Democrat legal scholars, Jonathan Turley, professor of law at Georgetown, Alan Dershowitz, a genuine liberal, a wonderful attorney, constitutional expert, but people of that stature say that this whole case should never have been brought, that it is faulty from its foundation, and that it is a politically charged case just attempting to keep Donald Trump off the ballot, keep him tied up in court. But it's not just that she's focused the charges against Donald Trump and others. She spent $700,000 of taxpayer money in Fulton County to pay her boyfriend, who was married, I guess still is, I don't know if the divorce is final, to take trips with her to the Caribbean, on cruises. I mean, there's some real ethical issues going on here. All of this has been established in court, so I'm not just pulling it out of thin air. Are the people of Fulton County, are they fed up yet?
I think you're starting to see a shift, Governor, in Fulton County especially. Fulton County historically is a 70-30 Republican Democrat, but you're starting to see a shift, especially because of the information that's come to light about Fani Willis. The money she paid her boyfriend, that money was supposed to go to hire 55 new assistant DAs to get rid of the backlog in Fulton County. That money should have been spent on, investigating the 4,000 untested rape kits we have in Fulton County.
14,000
unindicted felony cases in Fulton County.
Wow.
And that is all at the hands of Fani Willis because she decided to politically prosecute President Trump.
I mean, I think I've never heard those figures before, and I've tried to keep up with this case, but that's staggering.
It is.
I mean, that shows the juxtaposition of what she should be doing, what her job is, and what she chose to do. There are questions whether she and or Wade, the person she hired to be the special prosecutor, went to Washington, had meetings with people at the White House, including Kamala Harris and people at the Department of Justice. Do we know whether that has happened, and is that absolutely ironclad, or is it still at this point likely an allegation but not yet proven?
I think we know that it likely happened. The issue now is that you have Jim Jordan in Congress doing his own investigation into Fani Willis, and she's completely ignoring that investigation. And a lot of that has to do with the federal funding that she's getting from Congress. And a lot of that also has to do with her traveling to D.C. and what was discussed in those meetings. Why did she go to D.C.? How many times did she go to D.C.? I think we kind of know that she did go there, but the issue is that once she went there, that immediately after, President Trump and 19 other co-defendants were indicted. And that's a big problem. That's an ethical issue. It's a conflict of interest. And I think the people in Fulton County deserve to know what she talked about, why she went there, and what is actually going on.
In your campaign, and there's a primary May the 21st, so she has a primary opponent, but most people kind of presume that she will win that primary, which is amazing to me. But if she does, then you and her will chalk it off and go after it in November. What will be the themes that you will try to say to the people of Fulton County and in Atlanta specifically as to why they should say, Fani, it's time to go, and it's time to put Courtney in there?
So one of my main things that I'm trying to echo in this campaign is that it is not about right versus left. It's about right versus wrong. And as the lead advocate for your constituents, that's exactly what needs to happen. We've got to see a safer Fulton County. Criminal justice reform has got to happen. You have to prosecute actual criminals. That is what you're supposed to do as a DA. What's happening right now, prosecuting people for self-interest and for, potentially running for higher office is not what a DA is supposed to do at all. And so I think that, bringing transparency and accountability and faith and integrity back into the DA's office is so important. Fulton County has been made a mockery of because of her, and it shouldn't be that way. You don't ever hear of other DAs, you have your rogue DAs, New York and, now Fulton County, but it shouldn't be that way. You're supposed to focus on the goal, keep your community safe, and she's not doing that. So that's exactly what I'm going to be talking about and echoing, and I hope that people in Fulton will see that.
I think that's a great election message. I would like to believe that the people of Fulton County are smart enough to see through what's been happening with their money, and that they've decided that maybe we ought to go after crime rather than after political enemies of our local prosecutor. Let's hope that's what people are thinking. Well, you can keep up with Courtney's election run by going to Huckabee.tv. The Republican primaries are set for May the 21st, as are the Democrat primaries in Georgia. And it's a race we're going to be keeping an eye on. Well, somebody else I need to keep an eye on is Keith Bilbrey. Always have to do that. Keith, speaking of keeping an eye on, you're keeping an eye on the rest of the show. Tell us about it.
Something like that. Yes, when we come back, meet an incredible Huck's hero. And be sure to stick around for a tribute to the women trailblazers of country music later tonight on Huckabee.
One of the great pleasures that we always have at the show is that we get to hear a whole lot more of the music than you do at home. All the more reason to get tickets and come in the studio, be part of our audience. But for all of us, we certainly can extend our thanks to Trey Corley and the Music City Connection, the best band in America. Give them a big hand, would you? I believe there are no greater heroes than the recipients of the Medal of Honor. Our next guest is not only one of those recipients for his bravery in Vietnam, but he's now teaching young people the values represented by the Medal of Honor. That's why he is this week's Huck's hero.
In a world where heroes are often celebrated for their bravery on the battlefield, there's one hero whose impact extends far beyond the front lines. Meet Gary Littrell, a Medal of Honor recipient whose courage inspires not only on the battlefield, but also in the classroom through the Tribute to Valor Foundation.
Our Tribute to Valor Foundation was formed to concentrate on youth of America. And so that's our goal. When you look a kid in the eye and say, there's a hero inside of you, all you got to do is let that light shine. The expressions on their face, it's like, wow, I've got to look for something. I've got to look for something that I can do that it's above and beyond the call of duty.
Through initiatives like the STEM program, Gary empowers young minds to flourish. His impact extends beyond academics, instilling in these kids a sense of possibility and purpose. Gary Littrell's legacy shines bright through the education and empowerment of America's youth, thanks to his tireless dedication through the Tribute to Valor Foundation.
It's not where you start in life, it's where you finish, and you finish with integrity.
Please join me in giving a hero's welcome to the chairman of the Tribute to Valor Foundation, Army Ranger Hall of Fame member and Medal of Honor recipient, Gary Littrell. Welcome, Gary.
Good to be here.
It is an extraordinary honor to welcome you here. Most Americans understand there are millions of living veterans in our country. They probably don't realize there are only 65 living recipients of the Medal of Honor. It's an extraordinary small group of extraordinary people called upon by their country to do above and beyond. And I've been in meetings where all those recipients are there in one place. I've never felt so small in my life because it's a group of greatness. I know that most of the Medal of Honor recipients that I've ever been around never want to be heralded like that. But Gary, there's no other way to put it. What you guys represent is really why there is an America. And for you to take the story that you had, and to go into the schools and try to help these young people understand that it's a country worth fighting for and dying for.
It is, most definitely. You know, when I go into a classroom, you know, I've made the statement, if I can affect one child in that classroom, I've had a very productive day.
One of the things that I found interesting, you certainly focus on the STEM program, science,
Yes.
technology, mathematics, but you add another part of it, arts, which I found wonderful and significant. Why did you feel that that was also an important part of what you try to instill in these young people?
Well, we just broadened the spectrum to where every aspect is important to our children, and arts is an important part of our society.
You received the Medal of Honor for actions over a 4-day period in April of 1970. Been a long time ago.
54 years.
And I know when this is all going on, you're not sitting there thinking, boy, if I can hang on here for 4 days, one day I'll have President Nixon put a medal around my neck. I mean, you're just trying to survive. But all the other leaders in the battalion you were with were killed.
Yes.
You were the last living person, a sergeant, and you're supposed to take care of them, which you did for 4 days. And I can't even imagine, you're under heavy enemy attack, all the other people are dead, and you've got a bunch of folks who are subservient to your rank. You're trying to keep them alive, tend to their wounds, make sure they have something to eat, they get some rest, and that they hang on till people come.
Right.
How do you even approach something like that, Gary? I think it's overwhelming to most of us.
Well, you know, the word hero is a word that I don't like to cross my lips. You know, I was a non-commissioned officer placed in a situation. I had a job to do. And I truly believe that you'll react in combat the way you were trained. Fortunate for me, I was a graduate of the United States Army Ranger School, stayed on as a Ranger instructor. So when I went to Vietnam, I was selected to be an advisor to the Vietnamese Rangers, which was absolutely top notch. So it was just, I was just there. I had a job to do. I was the one in charge, and I had to bring as many people off that hill alive as I could. Unfortunately, out of 473 and 4 Americans who went up on the hill, myself and 41 wounded come off.
Wow. But those that came off wouldn't have had you not been there to shepherd and shield them and get them out. Otherwise, they all would have died. And I think that's something a lot of Americans can't even begin to understand. So when you go into the schools, the students, because we're seeing all this stuff where they're rioting, they're talking death to America, they're burning the flag, and I'm thinking, I wish they could hear you. I wish they could see what you did. Do they respond to you in a positive way when you tell them your story and America's story?
Oh, very much so. You know, I talk about the 6 core values of the Medal of Honor: courage, commitment, sacrifice, integrity, citizenship, and patriotism. I really zero in on integrity. I tell the students that integrity is the most important word in the English language. If you give up your integrity, you lose your integrity. It's very hard to get back. We never lie, we never steal, and we never cheat. The students do, and my wife goes with me now. She's a stunt lady, and so she tells her story of breaking the glass ceiling. I tell my story about being in Vietnam. And between the two of us, we cover the 6 core values of the medal and tell the kids that there's a hero inside of you. All you got to do is let that light shine.
I pray you get into as many schools as you have the physical stamina to do. And I'm looking forward to bringing your wife on and talking about what it's like to be a Hollywood stunt woman. For many of the films that we've all seen that she's been in, and somebody had to do those remarkable stunts. But Gary, what you did in Vietnam, it wasn't acting, it wasn't a stunt. It was the real deal. You put your life on the line for the rest of us.
Thank you.
We never, ever want to forget that. God bless you, my friend. Thank you. And thanks for being here tonight. Thank you. Our deepest appreciation to Gary Littrell for joining us here on the show, but even more, his sacrificial service to providing all of us our freedom. If you'd like to help Tribute to Valor, or if you'd like to invite them to come to your school, which I hope you would love to do, go to Huckabee.tv. We would love to connect you with Gary Littrell. Keith Bilbrey, I have a feeling there's something that's being cooked up next for the show. Why don't you tell us about it?
Well, all I can say is you meat lovers want to stick around. When we come back, Chef Stacy Lynn Harris cooks up some tasty applewood bacon-wrapped venison steaks. That's next on Huckabee. Huckabee.tv and get your very own made in the USA Huckabee mugs, t-shirts, and more.
My next guest is an author, speaker, gardener, lawyer, TV host, chef, and the mother of 7. I don't know how she found the time to be here, but I'm so glad she did. She's also the host of a television show called The Sporting Chef, and her latest cookbook is a celebration of Southern food, heritage, and hospitality. You know I'm going to like it. It's called The Love Language of the South. Would you please welcome my kind of cook, Stacy Lynn Harris. Welcome, Stacy Lynn.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. This is great.
You know, I got to thinking about the fact that if you've got 7 children,
yes.
that means you got to cook for 9 people.
Yes.
You, your husband, and 7 kids
Yes.
3 times a day.
That's right.
You better write a cookbook.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, I don't know if you feed
Yeah.
them as wonderfully as what we're about to experience, but we're going to do something that I think is going to be fantastic.
It's going to be so good. And yeah, my husband and kids, everybody hunts.
Yeah.
So we'll get like probably 15, even over that, deer a year. So we pretty much eat like this all the time. It's great. We're good.
And I love it because you got iron skillets.
Yeah, they're great, aren't they?
But
I
we're
love
gonna
iron
do-
skillets.
Bacon-wrapped venison.
Yes, it is going to be so good. And this is
Yeah.
applewood bacon, so
Okay.
it is great. And always use the thin cut. It cooks better on the venison.
Okay,
So, you want to get started?
let's do it.
All right, I want you to do one, and I'm going to do one. I'm
Okay.
cutting this loin. Now, I cut the ends off just because I wanted it to be a little bit more even.
Okay.
But this is the back strap, and I'm just going to cut this into 2 pieces. And I want you to, we're turning it on its side like
Okay.
this because it's going to be a lot more tender. And we're going to pound that out to about 2 inches. So, and you can kind of, mold it to make it
Okay,
stay
so just
straight.
go ahead and pound it out?
Yep, pound it out. Yep. See, this is super fun. We're having a good time. Kind of like playing in the sandbox. All right, that's good.
All
Okay.
right.
All right, now. Okay, that's good.
Order in the court. Order in the court. All right.
Okay, now you're going to make it like this.
Weren't expecting that.
Okay,
were you?
and
No.
so, yeah, there you go. All right, now we're going to wrap the bacon around it.
Okay.
All right. And then put the toothpick through. There you go.
Okay.
The whole thing.
Okay.
Okay, now we're gonna add salt and pepper. Now look, this is just plain and simple. This is amazing. All right, now what we're gonna do is put it in the skillet and we're gonna cook it. Ready?
Little searing?
Yep, here we go.
Okay.
I'll get yours. There you go. Okay, and
You didn't put any oil or butter or anything in there?
No,
Just-
it's just in the black
okay.
skillet. So I'm gonna turn it down just a little bit.
All right.
Okay, and we're gonna let this go for 3 minutes on one side and then 2 on the other. While
Okay.
we're doing that, we're gonna come over here and make our brown butter sauce.
Brown butter sauce. That
Yes.
sounds good.
Yes, so I'm gonna add the butter to this.
Lot of
It's
butter.
a lot of butter. Yep, it really is. All right, then I've just got all of my herbs here. And
what-
so I've got parsley, garlic. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in, parsley, garlic, thyme, oregano, and basil.
Okay.
So it's about 2 teaspoons each, and it's going straight
All of
into
this
the
is
butter.
in your cookbook.
All
so-
of this is, and on your website. I believe that this is going on your website.
Okay.
So along with the fried cornbread over here, that is also, and that is so good. Y'all, I could eat every piece. That's all I would eat at my grandmother's
Now,
house.
you grew up in L.A. Lower
yeah,
Alabama.
Lower Alabama. Yeah, I
that's
knew
what
exactly
thought.
what you were saying.
Because you didn't
Yep.
learn this in California.
No,
this
I
is
did
something
not.
you learned
I
where
did
God
not.
lives in the South. That's right.
That's it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That is true.
This is the cooking
Yes.
that makes us happy.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
All right, I'm putting a little lemon in here.
Okay.
I turned off the heat. So this sauce is ready. So I want you to try this. I want you, here, All right, you got to get your utensils. Here
You
we go.
had to beg me.
I know. All right. And then we're going to give you one of these. And then I'm going to put this on top of that.
Okay.
If I can find my spoon. All right, here we go.
So that just goes
Yep.
over.
It just goes straight over. Look at how pretty that looks. And then you top it with some shaved Parmesan. And since this is hot, it's going to melt.
Wow. Okay.
There you go. Okay. So yes, and now you hunt. How many deer are you do turkey too? Turkey,
Yeah, turkey, deer,
quail,
duck.
all of that.
Yeah.
I have a whole chapter in the book about hunting and fishing.
I run over
And-
some stuff too every
Okay,
year. and
well,
get
there
that.
you go. You got
Possum,
to use what you get.
Armadillo.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, in
Yeah,
Arkansas, we
yeah,
call
yeah.
armadillo possum on the half shell.
Oh, that,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's a delicacy. Okay, I love that. I love that. I can't wait to run over my next one.
But this looks fantastic. Okay.
Well, I hope that you like it. Do you like medium rare? Do you like your stuff medium?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. All right, let's see what you think. Is that good?
Oh my gosh.
So it's just got that lemony taste, that fresh taste from the herbs, and then you've got the Parmesan cheese, which gives the saltiness. I didn't even add salt and pepper to this at all.
Well, I got to tell everybody about how to get this. For this and the other recipes and a whole lot more from Stacey Lynn Harris, here's how you do it. Go to Huckabee.tv. We will connect you to her website and socials and her great new book. It's called Love Language of the South. I hope you'll get a copy of it. I promise you I will. You're going to love the language that Keith uses. He's going to tell us what's coming up next. I'm going to eat the rest of this venison steak right now.
I knew, Trey, and I would be left out. Well, stay right where you are. Georgette Jones and Lisa Brokop perform right after the break. Join Huckabee next week for sportscaster and author Bonnie Jill Laughlin and comedy from Nick Arnett.
We almost had to delay the show because I wanted to eat the rest of that venison steak. I'm telling you, it was fantastic. Well, Lisa Brokop is an award-winning country singer-songwriter who recently has been honoring her musical heroes with 2 live shows, the legendary Ladies of Country Music and the Patsy Cline Project, and her latest album, Who's Gonna Fill Their Heels? Now, to help, she recruited some country music royalty, the daughter of George Jones and Tammy Wynette. Would you please welcome Lisa Brokop and recording artist and author Georgette Jones. So very thrilled to have you ladies here. Georgette, I'm going to start with you. I told you before the show, given that your father was George Jones, your mother was Tammy Wynette, if you didn't have some musical pipes, then your DNA got messed up somewhere. Because, honey, that is as pure as country can get, is the parents that you were born to.
Well, thank you. I'm awfully proud for sure. So I'm very blessed, very blessed.
And Lisa, one of the things I was so excited about when I heard the lyrics to this song, I mean, I'm thinking about the George Jones songs, Who Will Fill Their Shoes?
Yes.
We all know that song. You took the concept of that song and made a female version of it, and it is just brilliant.
Oh, thank you so much. I love George Jones. I can't believe I'm sitting here with George's daughter and we're doing this song together. But I wanted to honor the ladies.
Yeah.
Because they weren't in the song. So.
Well, you pretty well got most of the great classic country music royalty in it, and people are going to love this song. I know that they're going to want to stream it, download it, put it in their iTunes. But to have you guys here to sing it is really special. And I just want to tell you how thrilled we are. And Georgette, to say to you, I know sometimes it's got to be difficult living in the shadow of 2 of the most famous people in the music business ever, but you still have a joy about the heritage that they have passed on to you.
I do. I mean, there was a time when I was younger that I struggled wanting to try to find my own way in music. And I finally got to a point in my life where I embraced, you know what, I have 2 incredible parents who have done so much in their field. And I'm so proud of what they've accomplished and what they've done and what they mean to people for the things that they've done. So I enjoy being able to honor them. And I do my best to try to do that when I can.
And I think people will see you're doing that, especially here tonight. And Lisa, your tribute to classic country music, the music that many of us really embrace as true, genuine, wonderful, timeless country music is such a gift, and I hope every generation will embrace this phenomenal genre of music. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll consider clicking the subscribe button below and the notification bell next to it so you don't miss any of our future videos when they go up online.